Hello everyone, this is NS Alters, and today I'll be showing you how I painted this Frilled Mystic. Took him from a lizard wizard into also King Gizzard. We start off by masking out the areas where we don't want our primer to go, because since we're going to be putting original art over the entire card, except for the boxes, I'm just going to mask them out very carefully with some tape. Once the tape is down, we just want to seal up the edges and make sure there's no cracks with this masking fluid. It's essentially just liquid latex, and applying that all over the edges in the places where the tape didn't quite go. So this allows you to not have to be so careful with the tape itself. And then when it dries, and after you've applied your primer, it all just peels right off. So here we have a picture of beautiful Stu Mackenzie. You can see that this image was made up in Photoshop, layered over some graphite paper, and we're going to press the graphite by tracing into the primer on the card. You don't need to press very hard when using graphite paper like this, and mostly I just use a pencil so that I can tell where I already traced. And you might say, hey, tracing is cheating. But yeah, well, whatever. It saves like 4 hours, so I do it this way. And then it looks really great in the end. Plus I still have tons of painting to do. So we have our line work done, and we're just going to fill up the little areas where the primer didn't go before. And starting with the background, we're going to just fill it all in. Now, normally a background like this would be much better done with an airbrush, but I simply just don't have one. But if I had an airbrush, I would definitely be using it for this transition because it fits the reference photo a lot better than trying to blend in like a sort of watercolor type of way. But once the background is nice and dry, then we're going to start blocking out the main colors for the artwork. Now for a piece like this where you're kind of like copying an image, it's generally pretty easy to just work on one section at a time, but for my sanity, I really like kind of blocking things out first. So starting off with the really dark shadows. I like to do those first because you're going to be painting over everything multiple times, and the shadows holding kind of through the layers that you put on top will help you stay focused and help you not lose where you're planning on going, because it's really easy to paint over a bright color and kind of, miss where you were and then kind of lose your place. Dark shadows help you stay focused. So we continue just blocking things out. Helps me get my imagination running, and also helps me when I'm referencing the reference image. We've got the shadows in place, some basic colors, some skin tone, and from this point on we can really start adding some detail. Adding some warmth into the shadows, and just some texture overall. So this is pretty much as far as the line work will ever get you. From here on out, I am just looking at the reference photo and painting it. And tracing really only gets you so far anyways. It just makes sure that the eyes are in the right relational space to the mouth. Make sure that, the whole thing is generally in the right space. But you don't need to be too precise when tracing, because you're going to be painting over these areas multiple times with your brushes and, multiple different layers. And the little features will get pushed around. What really makes the image look like the person you're painting are subtle things like, how thick the eyelid is underneath and over top. Those aren't really things that you can capture by just tracing. These are things that you have to work on by using a steady brush, a very pointy brush, and using the right consistency of paint. If it's too thick, it won't go on. If it's too thin, then it'll just bleed all over. So it's all about brush control, and all about really looking at the reference image and truly deciding how far apart these things are. Don't trust the tracing, to a T. So we have the face mostly blocked out there, and then we're gonna come in with the hair. So I'm coming in with a really dark brown for the hair, but you can tell that while I was doing that first brown layer, I was also thinking about where the highlights are going to go. In some places I applied multiple layers right away, and in others, I almost left it completely bare, like on the right side there, where there's a bit of a patch. I let that dry, and I went back and did a few more rendering details on the face, just popping up some highlights, and of course I had forgotten the last little splotch of paint on his forehead. And then the hair is nice and dry, so we're going to come back in a moment here once I'm done adding the blue. And we're going to start adding some more details to the hair. Now, hair is very interesting because it sort of reflects tons of different types of light. You have really dark areas, really bright areas, and it's very voluminous. So in order to get that volume to come across, you're going to want to start nice and dark. And then as you go on, just do brighter highlights. So right now I'm doing these like middle browns, but again, I'm leaving those dark spots. And now I'm coming in with a brighter brown, and we're just sort of exaggerating the areas that were that middle brown, but over a smaller area. So you get a nice gradation between the dark and the bright. We put on our last highlights there. And now we're going to kind of replace the flavor text because I wanted to have a little fun with this one. So generally just color matching, trying to cover up the text as best I can because it really shows through when you're painting in these lighter colors. And then we're just adding a bit more white over top to blend it in, cleaning up those edges. Now when you're writing your own text, it's a really good idea to put down your own line so that you have something to write to. I've made the mistake in the past where not putting down lines and then your text gets all wonky and all over the place. But doing it this way, it'll look nice and crisp. Last step is then just to sign my initials, and we're done. And there it is, one lizard wizard. And in the wise words of Stu Mackenzie, it's just, you just get in there and you're thinking about something and you're kind of thinking about a song. And then there's this music. Truer words never spoken. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. Or leave a comment down below if you want to see me alter a specific card. Thanks, and have a good day.